Well, in the story we have Jesus saying to Pilate, my kingdom is not of this world, and that's why his followers would not fight or resist the state, which is consistent with you can dramatically change yourself because you're willing. You are the self that you're changing. But to impose what you're desirous of doing on a state, on a world that obviously does not have your values and intentions and unique experience, so to speak, would be futile, and I'm not doing it. I've not come to save the world. I've come to save those that have ears to hear only. I pray for them, not for the world. My followers do not fight the world. Now you misunderstand being sent, that I'm sent out into the world, to the world, and you're going to end up with the history of Christian strife. In other words, evangelism was not that. Evangelism was to tell those that have ears to hear. I mean, Marshall, for instance, as a 17-year-old, I think it was basically, went into the public library, came across Plato, read the Republic. Wow. It wasn't forced down my throat. It wasn't something I had to study in order to pass my A-levels, my examinations at school. It was, in addition to that, it was my hobby, my absorbing interest. It just grabbed me completely. It actually seemed to spoil my eyesight. I read so much in the public library. I didn't own these books. And my sight was A1 before that. By the time I'm learning to drive, I need glasses. How amazing. Well, I'm pretty sure that was the reason. And you're talking about someone who was not a reader. I was backward as regards anything to do with English ability, which is why I wanted to crusade phonetic spelling. The world's not ready for it. Surprise, surprise. But Mum probably had extremely short sight because of, she passed a scholarship when she was of age and went to grammar school, which was, from a poor background, was an astonishing achievement. She's bright and fast. She could tie up counsel in a courtroom, and did. I was amazed. I was 18 at the time when she was, they were divorcing each other, my parents, in a high court. Spent 2.5 days fighting this case. Yeah, quite amazing. But it was quite clear that my mum was far more able than counsel on both sides, her own and Dad's. Mind you, I had a history of worshipping Mum, you understand, so I am totally biased, I expect. And I don't mean my mum shone as an angel of light for her troubles. In fact, it was fairly apparent that the more she crusaded against Dad, the more one sort of felt that Dad wasn't that unreasonable. She was condemned by her accusations. But to the point. Jesus does not fight battles that are to no point. And it's not that he is dismissing the world, it's simply saying they're not ready. Most people are not ready to hear. Okay. That's why they're here in the world. But there are some that are, and the fields are white to harvest. There are many that have ears to hear. And so he's a wandering ascetic that teaches. But he doesn't actually teach in the streets, so to speak, until he wants to have a showdown, of course. He goes off into the wilderness. You've got to be with him 3 days without food and listening to his talks. Zoroastrianism doesn't have, from the initial teachings, temples and palaces and the like. It is indeed more like the Indus Valley culture that we have unearthed of more recent times. It seems just to be towns of simple housing. Astonishing. I wouldn't say it was a communism, because we immediately assume the frightening spectre of what's got named communism from the 20th century. But I would call it simple living. And I do mean not hierarchical. Democracy is hierarchical. I know that sounds a bit like a contradiction, but it chooses typically who's going to make the decision, who's going to chair the committee, the body that, in fact, it has a body that makes decisions. It's just that you choose it, quotes, democratically. The kingdom of heaven's not like that. It's not a world system like that. I mean, you might see democracy as a relatively good world system compared to autocracies and so on, but its corruption can be as bad as anything else. The notion of heaven is that people are free because they're ready to be free. I don't mean we should keep people in subjection because they're not ready. I do mean that is what happens in the world, for sure. We have a state that typically goes for the monopoly of physical violence to be used as and where it thinks it's necessary, expedient to do so. Heaven's not like that, but then it has a very exclusive form of membership. You can't be in the state of heaven without being a safe individual. Safe as regards the others in heaven, that you're not going to harm them. And of course you will be safe yourself because they're not going to harm you. They're all free. It's just that they're free in a state in which each only purposes that which is beneficial, not that's harmful. To which I think I mean purely beneficial at that, not just on balance beneficial. This is not completely foreign to our world. There's many a family that's incredibly like that. Each member really does purpose to be only a benefit to all the other members. And you can imagine them having their freedom, given understanding, of course, as to how to use it, because they won't harm each other. World's not like that. if you are like that, you shouldn't be here. You should be in heaven. You're in the wrong place. This is for study and to graduate. You've already graduated. What are you doing here? Oh, I'm just here to help others. Ah. Oh, that's lovely. You mean you're not a danger to anyone? Correct. I'm not rebuking Pilate. Do you see? I mean, the nearest we get to a rebuke of Jesus and Satan is get behind me. Now, you don't say that to your enemy because he'll stab you in the back. Jesus knows he's completely safe. And to get behind is you're an inferior. I go first. You should be following my lead. You don't, of course, because you're a rebel. That's why you're here. Well. Thank you, Dad.